This one wants us to prepare a trial balance. So Smithson Floor Coverings reported the following summarized data at December 31st of 2018. Accounts appear in no particular order and all have normal balances. This one is 2-8. I'm sorry, I forgot to say that. Now, when I'm doing a trial balance, it needs to go in order, and it's typically assets, liabilities, equity, revenue, and then expenses. So normally what I do is I go through these accounts because they're all scattered up, and I note which ones are assets, liabilities, equity, revenue, and expenses. Okay, so service revenue is revenue, equipment is an asset, rent expense is an expense, common stock is equity, accounts payable is liability, dividends are going to go under the equity portion, salaries payable is liability, salaries expense is an expense, cash is an asset, accounts receivable is an asset, interest payable is a liability, and utility expense is an expense. All right, so then I go through and I number them so I know what order to put them in. Cash is always the first asset. So I'm gonna have cash first, then accounts receivable, then usually supplies that get used up faster. Do we have any supplies? No, so then equipment. I think that's all our assets. So I'm gonna do liabilities. Accounts payable is usually the first liability. Then I have salaries payable. Then I'm gonna have my common stock and my dividends. Oh, I left out, let's put 5.1 there for interest payable. Then I've got service revenue needs to come next. And then my expenses can go in any particular order. All right, so now your trial balance. You typically will have a heading, Smithson Floor Covering, trial balance, and it's just the date. Okay, then you're gonna have a couple columns. You're gonna have the account name, a debit column, and a credit column. All right, and then you just list the accounts. So you start with cash. Now the other thing you have to know is what type of balances everything have. All right, cash is an asset, so it normally has a debit balance. So it's gonna go on the debit side. All right, accounts receivable, also an asset. So it's gonna go on the debit side. Equipment, also an asset, so debit side. Accounts payable is a liability. Liabilities normally have a credit balance. So I'm gonna go over here, credit of 22. Salary payable. Has a credit balance, liability, so it has a credit balance. Interest payable, liability, 6,000. Then we have common stock. Common stock is an element of equity, so it has a credit balance. Dividends are an element of equity, but they reduce equity, so they're going to have a debit balance. And I'm going to have revenue. Revenue has a credit balance. Then I have my expenses. Expenses have debit balances. Salary expense has a debit of 1,600, and utilities have a debit of 1,900. 12. Should I have 12? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 12. Okay. I feel like I should have 11 written up there at least, but oh well. Got off somewhere. Okay, so then you add them up. And what are you hoping for? What should you find when you add them up? They should equal out. So I have 83,200 on this side. And 2,000 on this side. And that's what we want to find, all right? The trial balance is a document. It's like a working paper. It stays in your office, and it's just to make sure that everything was posted correctly. And when you, you could have errors in posting, but your debits and credits total out and equal out. Your financial statements will not work if these don't balance out.